Breaking Down: The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F by Mark Manson, the feedback loop from hell. You ever notice how when something small goes wrong, your brain starts spiraling? Like, you make a tiny mistake and suddenly you're overthinking everything. Why did I do that? Why can't I just get it right? And before you know it, you're not even upset about the original problem anymore. You're upset about being upset. That's what Mark Manson calls the feedback loop from hell. And man, he's right. We live in a world where everyone's obsessed with feeling good, with chasing happiness, positivity, constant motivation. Social media is full of quotes telling you to love yourself, to be grateful, to hustle harder, to manifest good vibes only. But here's the twist. The more you try to constantly be happy, the more miserable you actually become. Think about it. When you feel sad, you start thinking, why am I sad? I shouldn't feel this way. And that thought makes you feel even worse. Then you feel bad about feeling bad. That's the loop. It's like emotional quicksand. The more you struggle to get out of it, the deeper you sink. What Manson is really saying here is that life isn't about eliminating problems or chasing some eternal high. It's about learning which problems are worth giving a F about. Because truth is, you'll always have problems. Money problems, health problems, relationship problems, self-doubt, whatever. The goal isn't to be problem-free. The goal is to have better problems. So instead of wasting energy worrying about every little thing, you start to ask yourself, does this really deserve my energy? Is this problem worth caring about? That's the shift. That's what it means to not give a F. Not being indifferent, but being selective. When I first read this part, it hit me hard. Because like most people, I grew up thinking success meant eliminating struggle. You get the car, the apartment, the respect, the peace. But even when you get there, new challenges come knocking. So the question becomes, what's worth struggling for? That's the tone of this book. And that's where we start. Stop trying to fix everything and start choosing what truly deserves your time, effort, and emotions. That's the tone of this book. And that's where we start. Stop trying to fix everything and start choosing what truly deserves your time, effort, and emotions. Chapter 1, Don't Try. Don't try. That's what was written on Charles Bukowski's tombstone, a guy known for being brutally honest, unapologetic, and raw about life. And that's exactly how this chapter opens. A punch in the face to all the fake motivational fluff we've been fed our whole lives. We live in an age where everyone's trying so damn hard to be someone. To be successful, to be admired, to be something. Everyone's hustling, grinding, chasing validation. And Mark Manson's message here is the opposite. Stop trying so hard to be extraordinary. Because ironically, the more you chase that feeling of being special, the more ordinary you feel. Here's how I see it. When you're constantly trying to prove yourself, you're basically telling yourself that you're not enough right now. Every I need to be successful secretly means I'm not successful enough. Every I need to be happy means I'm not happy enough. That's the trap. The more you chase, the more you confirm your own lack. It's like running on a treadmill that never stops. You think you're moving forward, but you're staying in the same spot, exhausted. So what does don't try actually mean? It's not about being lazy or careless. It's about letting go of the obsession to constantly be more. It's about doing what matters without needing to prove anything to anyone, including yourself. Bukowski, for example, was a drunk and a writer who failed for decades. He didn't chase success. He just wrote because he had to. He wrote through his pain, his boredom, his failures, and eventually that honesty made him great. That's the irony Manson points out. The people who become great at something are rarely the ones obsessed with greatness. They're the ones who simply do the thing because they love it, because it feels real to them. The people who chase being somebody often end up miserable, fake, and lost. I've seen this play out in real life. Guys who act like they have it all together, flashing money, posting grind set quotes, pretending they're fulfilled. But you can see it in their eyes. They're chasing a feeling that keeps slipping away. They're addicted to proving instead of being. Here's the thing. Life gets lighter when you stop trying to look impressive. You start doing things because you genuinely care about them, not because you're desperate for validation. You stop trying to be the man and just be a man. Grounded, purpose-driven. Manson's not saying ambition is bad. He's saying that ambition without self-acceptance is poison. If you don't already feel enough on your own, no achievement will fix that. You can pile up money, followers, women, recognition, but if deep down you still feel like you're not worthy, you'll never rest. Manson's not saying ambition is bad. He's saying that ambition without self-acceptance is poison. If you don't already feel enough on your own, no achievement will fix that. You can pile up money, followers, women, recognition, but if deep down you still feel like you're not worthy, you'll never rest. The truth is, the people who end up living solid, fulfilling lives are the ones who stop chasing constant happiness. They focus on what matters to them, they accept the ups and downs, and they move forward without needing applause. That's what don't try really means. It means stop wasting energy pretending your life needs to be perfect before it's good. Stop trying to outshine everyone. Instead, pick your lane, stay real, and do what matters even when nobody's watching. When you stop trying to prove yourself, you finally have room to improve yourself. When you stop chasing happiness, you start finding peace. When you stop needing to be special, you start doing something that actually feels meaningful. That's the paradox. The less you chase greatness, the closer you get to it. And honestly, that's liberating. You realize you don't have to be the smartest, the richest, the most admired guy in the room. You just have to be authentic. That's what people feel. That's what lasts. So yeah, don't try, just do. And don't do it to prove. Do it because it's who you are. Chapter 2. Happiness is a problem. We've been sold a lie since day one, that the purpose of life is to be happy. Every ad, every influencer, every motivational post screams it. Chase happiness. Find your bliss. Think positive. But here's the cold truth. Happiness isn't something you find. It's something you earn through struggle, pain, and effort. Mark Manson hits hard on this. He says happiness comes from solving problems, not avoiding them. And when I first read that, it made perfect sense. Because look around. People who try to dodge discomfort are the most miserable ones. They drink, scroll, binge, chase quick highs, all to avoid facing their real issues. But that comfort, that fake happiness, always fades. Real happiness isn't the absence of problems. It's the process of working through them. You get in shape by dealing with sore muscles in early mornings. You build a business by fighting through uncertainty and rejection. You maintain a relationship by learning, compromising, and growing together. Real happiness isn't the absence of problems. It's the process of working through them. You get in shape by dealing with sore muscles in early mornings. You build a business by fighting through uncertainty and rejection. You maintain a relationship by learning, compromising, and growing together. There's no version of happiness without struggle. That's what Manson calls the happiness problem. The more you chase happiness directly, the more it escapes you because you're focusing on the result instead of the process. You can't skip the struggle and expect to get the reward. It's like this. Say you want abs. You can visualize them all you want, repeat affirmations in the mirror, but unless you hit the gym and eat clean, nothing's changing. Pain is the entry fee for growth. The problem is, we live in a world obsessed with comfort. We've been trained to think pain means something's wrong, but discomfort is where life actually happens. Think about your best moments, the ones you're proud of. They probably came after something hard. You pushed through, you earned it. That's the kind of happiness that sticks. Manson breaks it down with brutal simplicity. Life is a constant cycle of solving problems. When you fix one, another one appears. The point isn't to eliminate problems, it's to handle better ones. You outgrow old problems by leveling up your mindset, your priorities, your tolerance. So instead of asking, how can I be happy? The better question is, what kind of pain am I willing to go through? What problems am I willing to face every day? Because that's where your values live. The things you're willing to struggle for show what truly matters to you. I remember realizing this in my own life. There was a time I thought freedom meant never stressing again, making enough money, building comfort, having everything under control. But it doesn't work like that. Freedom doesn't mean no problems. It means you choose your problems. You choose which battles you fight. And once you accept that happiness is tied to struggle, life feels a lot simpler. You stop running from pain. You stop expecting every day to be good. You start working through what matters, and that gives you real satisfaction. Another thing Manson points out, not all problems are created equal. Some are good problems, meaningful ones. Training for a marathon hurts, but it's a good problem. Building a business from scratch keeps you up at night, but it's a good problem. Caring for someone who depends on you can be exhausting, but it's a good problem. The key is choosing problems that align with your values, not the fake values society tries to sell you. The key is choosing problems that align with your values, not the fake values society tries to sell you. People who focus on superficial things, status, money, approval, end up empty, no matter how successful they look. Because those are endless problems. There's always someone richer, prettier, more admired. That treadmill never stops. But when you focus on growth, contribution, integrity, those struggles bring peace. They give your life direction. So yeah, happiness is a problem. But it's the kind of problem you want. It's not about eliminating pain. It's about picking the pain that's worth it. And when you do that, happiness isn't something you chase anymore. It's something that shows up on its own. The secret isn't to avoid the storm. It's to learn how to walk through it. Because the man who can face his problems head on doesn't just find happiness. He finds power. Chapter 3. You are not special. This is the chapter that punches your ego right in the face. You are not special. Most people read that and immediately get defensive. What do you mean I'm not special? I've worked hard, I've been through things, I have potential. Sure you do, but so does everyone else. That's the point. Mark Manson's message here is brutal but freeing. We live in a culture that worships specialness. Everyone's convinced they're meant for greatness, that they're destined to be extraordinary. But when everyone believes they're exceptional, nobody actually is. It's like we've been raised to think life owes us something. Success, happiness, recognition, just because we exist. And that entitlement is exactly what's ruining people. Think about how often you hear stuff like, you can be anything you want, or you deserve to be happy. It sounds positive, but underneath it's poison. Because it creates this constant pressure to be amazing, to always stand out, to always be doing something impressive. And when life hits you with reality, when things don't go your way, when you fail, you start to think something's wrong with you. But nothing's wrong. You're just human. Manson says the biggest lie of our generation is that being average is bad, that somehow living a normal life makes you a loser. And man, that's so true. Everyone's trying to be an influencer, a CEO, a star. Nobody wants to be ordinary anymore, but here's the truth. Most of life is ordinary. Most people are average at most things, and that's okay. Manson says the biggest lie of our generation is that being average is bad, that somehow living a normal life makes you a loser. And man, that's so true. Everyone's trying to be an influencer, a CEO, a star. Nobody wants to be ordinary anymore. But here's the truth. Most of life is ordinary. Most people are average at most things. And that's okay. Being average doesn't mean being worthless. It means you accept who you are without pretending to be more than that. It means you focus on improving where it counts, not chasing perfection in everything. This chapter hit me because I've seen what chasing special does to people. They burn out trying to live up to impossible expectations. They fake confidence online, chase validation, and end up miserable behind the scenes. When you think you're special, you believe your problems are special too. Like the world owes you extra attention, extra care, extra exceptions. But life doesn't play by your feelings. It plays by reality. The moment you realize you're not special, you stop waiting for life to give you something and start earning it yourself. That's power. Because when you accept that you're not above failure, not above rejection, not above being wrong, you free yourself from a lot of pressure. You stop wasting energy pretending, and you start putting it into actually getting better. Manson explains that entitlement comes in two forms. One says, I'm better than everyone else and deserve special treatment. The other says, I'm worse than everyone else and deserve special sympathy. Both are the same ego trap. They're just two sides of the same coin. The truth is, nobody owes you anything. You're not guaranteed success, respect, or love just because you want it. You earn those things by showing up, failing, learning, and improving. Again and again. And once you let go of the idea that you need to be extraordinary, something interesting happens. You start to actually enjoy your life. You stop comparing yourself to everyone. You stop chasing extremes. You start focusing on what's real, your relationships, your habits, your growth. That's where fulfillment lives. The people who quietly work on themselves, who don't need attention or validation, those are the ones who end up extraordinary by accident. Because they're not obsessed with being special, they're obsessed with being honest. Manson's message isn't to give up on ambition, it's to ground it. To remind you that you're not too important to fail, to hurt, to mess up. And that humility, that groundedness, that's what builds real strength. So yeah, you're not special, neither am I. And weirdly enough, that's the most freeing truth there is. Because when you stop trying to prove you're extraordinary, you finally have the space to become someone genuinely solid. Not perfect, not special, just real. Not perfect, not special, just real. Chapter 4. The Value of Suffering. Here's a truth most people don't want to face. Suffering is not a bug in life. It's part of the design. Every single thing that gives life meaning has a layer of pain attached to it. Love hurts. Growth hurts. Change hurts. Even success hurts in its own way. Mark Manson's message here is simple but deep. You can't avoid suffering. You can only choose what kind of suffering is worth it for you. That line stuck with me. Because when you think about it, most of what people call happiness is just the absence of discomfort. They want pleasure without pain, gain without struggle, progress without sacrifice, but that's not how anything real works. The truth is, pain is the filter. It's what separates what matters from what doesn't. If you're willing to suffer for something, it's because it means something to you. You'll suffer to get in shape. You'll suffer to build a business. You'll suffer to protect your family. You'll suffer for anything that aligns with your values. And that's the point. Your values decide what kind of pain you'll accept. Manson says our problems define us, not in a victim way, but in a choice way. The things you decide to struggle for tell you who you are. A person who avoids pain at all costs ends up living a life that's shallow and reactive, always chasing comfort, never building depth. But a man who picks his suffering with intention becomes powerful. Because he's not running from pain, he's using it as a weapon. Here's an example. Let's say two people both want to be fit. One gives up when it gets hard, because deep down they don't value health enough to go through the grind. The other person pushes through every day, even when they don't feel like it. Why? Because they've decided that the pain of discipline is better than the pain of regret. Same situation, different values, different results. The chapter also calls out how we use pain the wrong way. Some people let their suffering define them. They wear their trauma like a badge, making their pain their whole identity. Others try to erase it completely, pretending it doesn't exist. Both extremes are weakness. Real strength is when you use your pain as a compass. When you ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? Instead of, why is this happening to me? Real strength is when you use your pain as a compass. When you ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me, instead of why is this happening to me? Because the truth is, pain never goes away. It just changes shape depending on where you're heading. You either suffer from the weight of purpose or from the emptiness of not having one. One thing Manson points out that hit hard: people who say they want a great life often don't realize what that actually costs. Everyone wants success. Few want the suffering that comes with it. Everyone wants the good relationship. Few want the tough conversations, the honesty, the vulnerability. Everyone wants the dream job. Few want the sleepless nights, the pressure, the failure. So the real question isn't, what do you want out of life? It's, what pain are you willing to endure to get it? That's the shift right there. Because the quality of your life isn't decided by how much pleasure you chase. It's decided by how much pain you can handle for something meaningful. When you pick the right kind of suffering, life starts to make sense. You stop being the victim of your circumstances and start being the author of them. You take ownership, even when it hurts. And when you accept that pain has a role, you stop fighting it. You stop whining, blaming, escaping. You deal with it head on. And ironically, that's when life gets lighter. It's like lifting weights. It hurts at first, but over time, the same weight that once crushed you becomes easy. You get stronger. The pain doesn't go away. You just get better at carrying it. That's what this chapter is really about. Choosing your suffering consciously, owning it, using it as a forge to build resilience and direction. Because at the end of the day, suffering's not the enemy. Meaninglessness is. And once you decide why you're willing to suffer, you stop asking whether you can handle it. You just do. Chapter 5. You are always choosing. This chapter hits you with a truth that's both heavy and liberating. You are always choosing. Even when you think you're not, you are. Mark Manson says that everything in life, your reactions, your mindset, your results, comes down to the choices you make. Maybe not what happens to you, but definitely how you respond to it. And that's what defines you more than anything else. It's easy to play the victim, to say, it's not my fault, or I didn't ask for this. And sometimes, yeah, you didn't. You can't control everything that hits you. You can't control your past, how people treat you, or when life decides to throw you into chaos. But what you can control is what you do next. It's easy to play the victim, to say, it's not my fault, or I didn't ask for this. And sometimes, yeah, you didn't. You can't control everything that hits you. You can't control your past, how people treat you, or when life decides to throw you into chaos. But what you can control is what you do next. That's the dividing line between weak men and strong men. Weak men let their circumstances decide who they are. Strong men take ownership, even of the things they didn't cause, because they know their response is their responsibility. Manson tells a story about a man who was wrongfully imprisoned for years. He didn't choose the injustice, but he chose how to handle it. Instead of wasting his life hating the system, he educated himself, found meaning, and came out stronger. That's ownership at its highest level. That's the core message here. You may not be to blame, but you're still responsible. At first, that sounds harsh, but it's actually freeing. Because when you take responsibility, you take your power back. As long as you're blaming, you're giving control to someone else. But when you own your reaction, you're in charge again. I've seen this mindset shift change people's entire lives. You stop waiting for things to get better and start making them better yourself. You stop expecting people to fix what's broken and start handling it. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what can I do about it? It's a different kind of energy. It's masculine, grounded, and real. The problem is, most people don't want that responsibility. Because owning your choices means owning your mistakes too. It means admitting when you've been lazy, distracted, or wrong. That's uncomfortable. And people would rather live in denial than face that kind of truth. But here's the thing. Avoiding responsibility doesn't protect you. It weakens you. It makes you dependent on luck, on other people, on external validation. And that's no way to live. Manson also talks about how freedom and responsibility are linked. Everyone wants freedom, but they forget that freedom comes with accountability. You can't have one without the other. If you want the freedom to live on your terms, you have to accept the responsibility that comes with those terms. You want to be fit? That's your choice. And so is the discipline it takes. You want to be successful? Then own the failures along the way. You want better relationships? Then take ownership of how you show up. Every single thing you want has a price, and the payment is always responsibility. The more responsibility you take, the more control you gain over your life. The less you take, the more your life controls you. The more responsibility you take, the more control you gain over your life. The less you take, the more your life controls you. And that's why this chapter is such a turning point in the book. It forces you to drop the excuses, to stop waiting for perfect conditions or the right timing or someone to give you permission. Because no one's coming to save you. No one's going to hand you peace or purpose or happiness. You have to choose them moment by moment. Even your emotions are choices. You can't always control the first feeling that hits you, but you can control what you do with it. Anger, jealousy, fear, guilt, they're all signals. You can choose to let them run your life, or you can choose to use them as tools to learn something. When you realize that every reaction, every decision, every attitude is a choice, life becomes clearer. You stop drowning in chaos and start steering your own ship. Yeah, it's hard, but it's also powerful. Because when you take ownership, there's no one left to blame. And that means there's no one left to stop you either. That's what real freedom looks like. Not escaping problems, but choosing how you face them. Not waiting for better cards, but playing the ones you've got like a king. Because at the end of the day, no matter what's happening around you, you're always choosing who you're going to be through it. Chapter 6. You're wrong about everything, but so am I. This chapter is humbling, and that's exactly why it's powerful. Manson's message here is simple. You're wrong. I'm wrong. Everyone's wrong. The question isn't, am I right? It's how wrong am I, and in what way? At first, that sounds pessimistic, but it's actually one of the most freeing ideas in the entire book. Because the moment you stop needing to be right all the time, you open the door to actually learn. The truth is, being wrong is how we grow. Everything we know now replaced something we used to be wrong about. Every lesson, every breakthrough, every bit of wisdom comes from realizing that what we believed before wasn't fully true. That's how you evolve. The problem is, people today are addicted to being right. Everyone wants to win arguments, to prove their point, to have the last word. We confuse confidence with certainty, but they're not the same. Real confidence is being comfortable with uncertainty. It's saying, I could be wrong, but I'm open to finding out. That's rare, because it takes ego death. That's rare, because it takes ego death. And let's be real, the ego hates being wrong. It would rather live in denial than admit it doesn't have all the answers. That's why people stay stuck. They'd rather protect their pride than face reality. But once you accept that you're wrong about something, even slightly, you take back control. You stop clinging to old beliefs that don't serve you. You start updating your mind instead of defending it. It's like software. You can't run your life on old programming. The system crashes. You've got to be willing to hit update, even when it means admitting your old version was flawed. Manson gives the example of how beliefs are like maps. They help us navigate reality, but they're not reality itself. The map isn't the territory. And sometimes our map is completely outdated, built from childhood, from fear, from what other people told us. So when life changes, the map stops working. That's when people start to panic, because they'd rather keep their bad map than admit they're lost. But if you want to grow, you have to be willing to say, yeah, maybe my map's wrong. Maybe I don't know as much as I thought. That's how you find a better one. The chapter also talks about uncertainty as the foundation of progress. If you're certain you already know everything, you never improve. But when you stay humble and curious, you keep evolving. This idea hit me personally. I've had moments where I was sure I knew what I was doing. in work, relationships, whatever. And then reality slapped me in the face. I was wrong. But every time that happened, I leveled up. Not instantly, but eventually, because being wrong forced me to see things differently. It's uncomfortable, yeah, but discomfort is where truth lives. Manson's point isn't to doubt yourself constantly. It's to build a mindset that's flexible, not fragile. Fragile people break when they're wrong. Strong people adapt. When you can say, I was wrong without your ego collapsing, that's real strength. Because you're not tying your identity to your opinions anymore. You're tying it to your ability to grow. And this goes for everything, your values, your goals, even your perception of yourself. Who you think you are today will probably look small compared to who you'll become in 10 years. That's the natural process. So instead of clinging to certainty, you start embracing curiosity. You start saying, let me find out, instead of, I already know. So instead of clinging to certainty, you start embracing curiosity. You start saying, let me find out, instead of, I already know. That mindset shift changes everything. You stop fearing mistakes because you realize they're just feedback. You stop judging people so harshly because you understand everyone's figuring it out, same as you. In a world obsessed with being right, being open-minded is a power move. Because at the end of the day, truth isn't something you possess, it's something you chase. And the man who keeps chasing truth, even when it hurts his pride, is the one who keeps growing. So yeah, you're wrong, and so am I. But if we can accept that, question it, and stay curious, then maybe we're a little less wrong today than we were yesterday. And that's progress. Chapter 7, Failure is the Way Forward. This is one of those chapters that hits you right in the gut. Not because it's trying to be emotional, but because it's raw truth. Everyone wants success. Everyone wants confidence. Everyone wants to be admired. But what most people don't realize is that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of the process. You can't win without losing first. You can't master anything without messing up over and over again. We grow up thinking failure is something to avoid. School trains us to fear the red marks, jobs train us to play it safe, and social media trains us to only show our highlights. But here's the harsh reality. If you're avoiding failure, you're avoiding growth. Every single thing that makes you stronger mentally, emotionally, financially comes from moments when you were forced to face something uncomfortable. Mark Manson puts it bluntly, the desire for a positive experience is itself a negative experience. That means when you're constantly chasing success, perfection, or validation, you're actually creating anxiety and dissatisfaction. You're stuck in a loop of not enough. On the other hand, when you embrace the hard moments, when you accept failure as part of the deal, you free yourself. You stop fearing it. You start moving forward. Think about it. No one who's ever built something meaningful did it without falling on their face a few times. Thomas Edison failed 1,000 times before he made a working light bulb. But he didn't even call them failures. He called them lessons. That's the mindset difference. It's not about pretending mistakes don't hurt. They do. It's about seeing them as data, feedback, fuel. Here's how I see it. The people who never fail are the ones who never try. They stay in their comfort zone, play small, and convince themselves it's smart to avoid risk. But deep down, they're scared. Scared of being judged, scared of losing, scared of feeling embarrassed. What they don't realize is that fear is exactly what's keeping them average. Here's how I see it. The people who never fail are the ones who never try. They stay in their comfort zone, play small, and convince themselves it's smart to avoid risk. But deep down, they're scared. Scared of being judged, scared of losing, scared of feeling embarrassed. What they don't realize is that fear is exactly what's keeping them average. If you want to be great at something, whether it's art, business, relationships, or fitness, you've got to be willing to suck at it first. You have to be okay with being bad, awkward, uncertain, even humiliated. That's the price. And the ones who make it are simply those who keep showing up despite it. It's like working out. Your muscles don't grow when you lift the weight easily. They grow when you push until it burns. Same with life. The struggle is the stimulus. Failure is the resistance that builds your resilience. Mark also talks about the importance of failure values, basically, the standards by which you measure your failures. For example, if your value is always looking good in front of others, then every mistake feels like a disaster. But if your value is learning as much as I can, then failure becomes an asset. You reframe it, you use it. Personally, I've learned more from things going wrong than from things going right. Every time something fell apart, a project, a friendship, a plan, it forced me to adapt, sharpen my focus, and understand what actually matters. Failure strips away the bullshit. It exposes who you really are and what you're truly willing to fight for. That's why failure is not just a part of success, it's the gateway to it. The people who win big aren't necessarily the smartest or the luckiest. They're the ones who've gotten comfortable being uncomfortable. They've built calluses around rejection, setbacks, and no's. They've failed more times than most people have even tried. So, the lesson here? Stop trying to avoid failure. Instead, build a relationship with it. Let it teach you, toughen you, refine you. Every time you fall and get back up, you're proving to yourself that you can. And that's how you build real confidence. Not the fake kind that depends on external validation, but the quiet, unshakable kind that says, I've been through worse. I can handle this too. Failure is the way forward because it's the only way forward. Embrace it, learn from it, and move on stronger. That's the mindset that separates men from boys, talkers from doers, and dreamers from builders. Chapter 8. The importance of saying no. If there's one thing that separates strong people from weak ones, it's the ability to say no. It sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest skills to master, especially in a world that constantly tells you to say yes. Yes to opportunities, yes to people, yes to every invitation, every distraction, every request. But the truth is, every yes you give away without thought costs you something. Your time, your focus, your energy, your self-respect. If there's one thing that separates strong people from weak ones, it's the ability to say no. It sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest skills to master, especially in a world that constantly tells you to say yes. Yes to opportunities, yes to people, yes to every invitation, every distraction, every request. But the truth is, every yes you give away without thought costs you something. Your time, your focus, your energy, your self-respect. Mark Manson's point in this chapter is clear. Having strong values means being willing to reject what doesn't align with them. You can't live a meaningful life if you're constantly trying to please everyone. Saying no isn't about being rude or arrogant. It's about protecting your boundaries. It's about having the discipline to know what's worth your time and what's not. Most people avoid saying no because they're scared of conflict. They want to be liked. They want to seem agreeable and kind, but that's exactly how you end up living someone else's life. You keep bending, adjusting, compromising until you don't even recognize yourself anymore. You become this watered-down version of who you could have been, always chasing approval instead of respect. Here's the thing. Saying no is actually one of the most honest and respectful things you can do, both for yourself and for others. It means you know what you stand for. You're not pretending. You're not leading people on. You're being clear, direct, and grounded. That's masculine energy, controlled, certain, unshaken by pressure. Mark talks about how every commitment you make, whether it's to a person, a project, or an idea, automatically limits your freedom. The more you commit, the more you close off other options. That's not a bad thing. In fact, it's how you build depth. People think freedom means keeping all doors open, but that's not freedom. That's chaos. Real freedom comes from focus. It's the freedom that comes when you choose your battles carefully and fully own those choices. Let's be real. We live in a world full of noise. Everyone wants something from you. Your attention, your likes, your time, your money. If you don't learn to say no, you'll be pulled in 100 different directions, burned out, and left wondering why nothing feels fulfilling. Because fulfillment doesn't come from saying yes to everything. It comes from saying yes to the right things and having the balls to say no to everything else. It also applies to relationships. You can't build something real if you're scared to set boundaries or walk away. Whether it's friendships, dating, or business, you've got to be willing to reject and be rejected. That's how you find alignment. If someone gets mad at you for saying no, they were never your people in the first place. The right people respect boundaries. They actually trust you more for having them. Personally, I've learned that every time I said yes out of guilt or fear, I ended up resenting it later. It drains you. It makes you feel like your time doesn't belong to you anymore. But when you start saying no, even when it's uncomfortable, something changes. You start feeling lighter. You feel in control again. You gain this quiet confidence because you know your priorities are solid. This chapter also touches on the idea of commitment. When you say yes to something, make it count. Say yes with full intent, not hesitation. That's what separates someone who drifts from someone who leads. A man who knows how to say no is also a man whose yes actually means something. Because it's rare. It's real. This chapter also touches on the idea of commitment. When you say yes to something, make it count. Say yes with full intent, not hesitation. That's what separates someone who drifts from someone who leads. A man who knows how to say no is also a man whose yes actually means something. Because it's rare. It's real. At the end of the day, saying no isn't about rejection. It's about direction. You're steering your life, not letting it be pulled by everyone else's expectations. You're choosing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. So stop apologizing for your boundaries. Stop feeling guilty for protecting your time. The people who get it will respect you more for it. And the ones who don't, well, that's exactly why the word no exists. Say no more often. Say yes only when it aligns deeply with your values, your goals, your mission. That's how you build a life that's yours, not a collection of favors, distractions, and regrets. Chapter 9, and then you die. This chapter hits hard. Not because it's dark, but because it's real. Everything we do, everything we stress about, all the chasing, all the drama, it all ends in the same place. We die. That's not meant to be depressing. It's meant to wake you the hell up. Because once you really accept that fact, life gets a lot clearer. You stop wasting time on things that don't matter. You stop pretending you're invincible. You start living on your own terms. Mark Manson wraps the book with a simple but powerful truth. Our time is limited, and that's what gives it value. Death isn't the enemy. It's the reminder that makes life meaningful. Most people go through life pretending it'll last forever. They avoid thinking about death, as if ignoring it makes it less real. But when you embrace it, something shifts. The small stuff stops controlling you. The opinions, the fears, the fake goals, they lose their grip. Here's the harsh truth. One day, no one will remember your Instagram posts, your job title, or how expensive your car was. What will matter is how you showed up, how you treated people, how you lived with purpose, how deeply you cared about something bigger than yourself. That's your real legacy. Mark uses the story of a friend's death to show how mortality strips away the nonsense. When someone close to you dies, you suddenly see what actually matters. Connection, honesty, love, contribution. The rest feels fake. Death puts everything in perspective. And the sooner you learn that lesson, the sooner you can stop living like you have unlimited tomorrows. Here's how I see it. Death isn't something to fear. It's something to respect. It's the great equalizer. You can't buy your way out of it, charm your way around it, or hustle your way past it. It's coming, for all of us. That's not a threat. It's motivation. Because when you remember you're going to die, you stop being afraid to live. Here's how I see it. Death isn't something to fear. It's something to respect. It's the great equalizer. You can't buy your way out of it, charm your way around it, or hustle your way past it. It's coming for all of us. That's not a threat, it's motivation. Because when you remember you're going to die, You stop being afraid to live. You stop waiting for someday. You stop needing everyone to like you. You stop holding back what you really want to say or do. You become sharper, freer, more intentional. Every day becomes a chance to do something that actually means something, even if it's small. There's a power in realizing your own insignificance. That might sound weird, but it's liberating. When you accept that you're just a tiny piece of a much bigger picture, you stop taking yourself so damn seriously. You stop obsessing over being perfect or admired. Instead, you focus on impact. You focus on living in alignment with what actually matters to you. Mark talks about immortality projects, the things people do to feel like they'll live on forever. And for some, though, it's fame. For others, it's money, kids, legacy, religion. But the truth is, everything fades. The goal isn't to live forever, it's to live fully, to leave a mark, not because you were chasing attention, but because you lived authentically. Personally, I think about this a lot. We don't know how much time we've got. Could be decades. Could be days. And once you really feel that, not just know it intellectually, but feel it in your bones, you stop tolerating bullshit. You stop wasting time on fake people, shallow pursuits, or empty goals. You become brutally honest with yourself. You start asking, if I died next year, would I be proud of how I'm living now? That question alone can change everything. When you accept death, you start giving fewer F, but in a good way. You give fewer F about the things that drain you, and you start giving more to the things that light you up. You stop chasing approval and start chasing purpose. That's the core message of this whole book. Life is short, so stop wasting it on meaningless crap. We spend so much time worrying about what people think, about being right, about winning, but none of that follows you to the grave. What does is how real you were, how much you loved, how deeply you showed up for the things that mattered. So yeah, the book ends with death, but it's really about life, about choosing to live with intention, with integrity, with courage, about letting go of all the noise and focusing on what's real. And if you take one thing from this chapter, it's this: remember you're going to die, and use that as fuel. Let it push you to take risks, to say what you mean, to live boldly. Because in the end, the only failure that really exists is dying without ever having truly lived, my final reflection. At the end of the day, the subtle art of not giving a F isn't about not caring. It's about caring selectively. It's about knowing what's worth your time, your effort, your energy, and letting everything else fall away. At the end of the day, the subtle art of not giving a F isn't about not caring. It's about caring selectively. It's about knowing what's worth your time, your effort, your energy, and letting everything else fall away. Life's short. You're going to fail, you're going to lose, you're going to die. That's guaranteed. But between now and then, you get to decide what kind of man you'll be. One who reacts to everything, or one who chooses what truly matters and moves with purpose. Give your F wisely and live like you mean it. Thank you for listening.